legacy.
The president's actions have consequences, and when you repeatedly are attacking my father and war heroes, it creates a culture in the military where people are clearly fearful to show, my father's name in one way or another. It's impossible to go through the grief process when my father, who's been dead 10 months, is constantly in the news cycle because the president is so obsessed with the fact that he's never going to be a great man like he was.
Retired Navy Commander Kirk Lippold is with me now. He commanded the USS Cole, and also with me is CNN political commentator Anna Navarro. Commander, I just want to begin with you because, just for context for everyone watching, this ship was originally named after Senator McCain's father and grandfather, and then the senator was added as a namesake just last year. And I can't help but think of these sailors, working really hard to serve this country, to serve on this ship, and then being told to hide the name of a war hero who is buried in Annapolis at the Naval Academy. What message does that send?
Well, I think when you look at it, obviously the director of the White House military office, a cornerstone of our democracy is control of the military. But civilian control does not mean political abuse. And when you've got a political appointee asking for something like this, it is wholly unacceptable. And I'm glad that the Navy leadership finally saw fit to push back and say, no, we are not going to do that. That ship has operational commitments doing repairs and other maintenance work in port, and we're not going to interrupt the schedule of the sailors or otherwise to move it at taxpayer expense just because some guy thinks that that will make President Trump happy.
And then one more thing for you before I move on. I was taking notes as I was listening to the president this morning, and towards the end, when he was answering questions, he said, I couldn't care less about the boat. The boat. Is that insulting to you?
No, it's not insulting. I think a lot of people that I've talked to over the years often mistake it. They call our ships boats, but, that's a matter of education. When you look at it, the Navy has ships, submarines, and aircraft. We do have small boats, but that is a ship, and it is a warship, and a fine one at that.
Anna Navarro. The president says whoever wanted the ship out of sight was, quote unquote, well-meaning. Why can't he seem to quit Senator McCain?
Because he's insecure. Because he will never amount to anything in comparison to John McCain. Donald Trump's never going to get a ship named for him. At best, he can ask for a hot air balloon. That would be much more appropriate. Listen, there is nothing Donald Trump can do to erase John McCain from American history and from world history. Just the last few weeks, Ukraine named the street after him. Just this week, in Lithuania, a great hall is being named for him. You will not erase John McCain from history, no matter what you do, Donald Trump. But as you were talking about, you were thinking about the men and women serving on the USS John McCain. You know who I was thinking of? John McCain IV, who's actually still serving in the U.S. Navy right now. Just returned from 2 years in Afghanistan. Jack McCain is part of this service, is part of this Navy. And I was thinking with great sorrow and worry about how much Donald Trump has done to harm the institutions of the United States, the presidency, the military. The fact that he has now surrounded himself by sycophants who serve not the country, not the Constitution, but serve the whim of Donald Trump. Did this because they thought it would please him, and obviously he says well-meaning. And it tells you what the lack of adults in the room, as we used to call them, like Jim Mattis or John Kelly, who we could have disagreed on a bunch of things, but there is no way that something like this would have happened under their watch, whereas now it happens because he has surrounded himself by nothing but yes men and yes women who do everything they can in order to hold on to their jobs, even when it means compromising the most basic human decency.
Commander, back over to you. Acting Defense Secretary Patrick Shanahan says that he will investigate these reports. I know you're calling for the naming and the reprimand of the White House military official who floated this idea to begin with. Can you just talk to me about the effect of even having a conversation about moving a Navy ship for a reason like this?
Well, when you move a Navy ship like this, it disrupts the entire day. I mean, the sailors have to go to a sea and anchor detail. They have to make sure the ship is properly manned so that they can move it. Tugs are going to be involved. It is a larger process than people think it is. You don't just get the ship and move it from one place to another. So clearly, whoever is running the White House military office needs to be better informed. They've got a military deputy. That deputy should have immediately gone through the process. And sometimes when political appointees say things like this, it is the duty of naval officers to look at them and say, no, sir, we shouldn't do that. Here are the reasons why. If you direct me to do it, that's fine. The White House military office does not have any operational or administrative authority over any naval assets whatsoever, except those directly assigned for the movement of the president and the vice president. So clearly in this case, it should have been pushed back much earlier than it was, because this is a story that never should have been.
And to hear you say, your point about no, sir, we shouldn't have done this. Anna, back over to you and your point, your word was sycophants, right, that surround this president. Last question. I mean, do you think at the end of the day, and let's take President Trump at his word, that he had no idea somebody was even floating this idea. Does it speak to, is it fear among those around him? Fear that he would lash out if he were to see the USS McCain there in the waters off Tokyo? What's that about?
Why wouldn't they assume that when he has been lashing out at John McCain at every stage, whether he was a candidate, whether he was president, whether John McCain is alive or whether John McCain is dead, he has been lashing out at the man. And look, I think it's important that we as Americans not lose sight of just how horrible and how not normal and how pathetic and disgusting and small this is, and it keeps happening. And so we've got to resist the urge of shrugging our shoulders and saying, oh, that's just Trump being Trump. That's just people trying to appease
shrug
Trump.
our shoulders.
We cannot get used to the fact that we have a petty little man as president, and he has affected the institutions of the United States to this level where people will cater to his every whim, even when it means putting a tarp over the names of heroes.
Appreciate the conversation.
Wish
Anna
we could put a
Navarro.
tarp